Hi, my name is Scott, and if this is your first time to the channel, I'm a practicing physician assistant working in endocrinology. I'm also a type 1 diabetic. If you're not subscribed to the channel and you're interested in diabetes related news, tech talk, product reviews, please go ahead and subscribe. I'm going to be coming out with new content all of the time. And if you're enjoying the video, I'd certainly appreciate it if you gave the video a thumbs up. So if you've ever experienced a rash with your Dexcom, your Libre, your Medtronic Guardian, I'm going to go over a few proven ways to help prevent that in the future. Some of these I've used myself. Some of these have studies that have been done to show an improvement in the rash that a lot of people have with their CGM. Let's talk about a few ways to help you prevent a rash from your CGM in the future. So the first one is a little bit surprising. It's actually using over-the-counter nasal spray. So yeah, the same thing that you spray in your nose for allergies like Flonase, all of those, this can actually help prevent a rash from your CGM. It's probably the easiest method of the three. What you do is before you put on your CGM, you just do 2 puffs of the nasal spray onto the area that you're going to put on your CGM, and you allow that to dry before you put it on. And the same way that these nasal sprays block all the inflammatory substances in your nose and help bring down the swelling and itchiness from allergies in the nose, it helps prevent the same thing on your arm or abdomen, wherever you're using it. In fact, they've actually done a study with this and have shown proven benefit. They did a study in a pediatric population using fluticasone, which is the generic name for Flonase, and this was a pediatric population involving patients who have used CGMs and wound up with allergic reactions. And they found after the study was complete, the individuals who used 2 sprays of Flonase prior to putting on their CGM had no recurrence of the local irritation or dermatitis that they previously had. So this is a really good option. It's actually fairly inexpensive because each bottle of Flonase, which normally costs around $15 to $20, has around 120 sprays. And if you're only using a couple puffs each time you're putting on a new CGM, replacing a CGM every 10 to 14 days, it's going to last you a long time. So that's the first option. If that option's not effective, the next thing that you want to try is using a barrier film. So barrier films come in both wipes and sprays. There's a ton of different options available on Amazon, and they work by creating this very thin waterproof barrier film between the adhesive layer of the CGM and the skin. And for many people, they're very effective. Before you put on your CGM, you're going to take one of these barrier wipes, or if you're using the spray, and you're going to apply it over the area. You're going to do a circular motion, leaving a small empty oval on the skin where the CGM is going to go through, allowing some area for the needle to go through. So you do that in a circular motion. I generally do 2 layers of this to let the first layer dry, and then I do a second layer over it just to make sure that it's going to be a thick enough barrier to prevent that irritation. Another benefit from using one of these barrier films is not only do they reduce the rash and the irritation from CGMs, but they also make pulling off the CGM a little less painful, because instead of pulling on the skin, you're more pulling on this barrier film that's present. So it actually helps in that area as well. These are the ones that Dexcom mentions on their website. The one that I found the best luck with, the one that I personally like the most, is one called Skin Tack. Because it not only applies this hypoallergenic barrier to the skin, it also adds an extra layer of adhesive, which helps keep the CGM on. That's a personal favorite of mine, but again, Dexcom has a lot of different options on their website. So if the barrier film still doesn't work, you've used the Nasonex, you've tried these first 2 steps, and you're still having an allergic reaction, then you got to bump it up to the final step. And this is going to work for most people. And this is when you actually take a physical barrier patch, like an adhesive layer, and you apply it to the skin over. It's similar to like a Band-Aid. And this is actually creating this physical layer in between the CGM and your skin. So there's a bunch of different barrier adhesives that you can use. You can buy them all on Amazon. Dexcom, again, has a list of different ones that they recommend on their website. I wanted to go over how you apply one of these because it can be a little bit complicated if you've never done it before. So what you're going to do is you want to make sure that the hole in the barrier is lined up with the hole in the Dexcom. You don't want the needle to go through the barrier. So you actually have to create a small hole in the center of the barrier so you can kind of line up the adhesive patch first to get an idea. And then you cut out a little hole in there. If you have a hole punch, that would be perfect. I don't, so I just use scissors to cut out a hole in the middle. And then once you do that, you go ahead and you line it up to the Dexcom or the Libre, whichever one you're using, to make sure you have that nice and centered. And then you pull off the adhesive on the Dexcom, the Libre. I didn't pull it completely off because I wasn't ready to use this one yet, but you would pull it completely off, stick the barrier layer to that Dexcom or the Libre, and then pull off the actual layer on the adhesive pad. And then what you do is once that's stuck there, you go ahead and apply this to the skin, get it nice and stuck, and then you go ahead and press the button on your Dexcom or your Libre, and then that sticks the hypoallergenic adhesive barrier film to the skin, but the adhesive on the CGM never actually touches the skin. So you create this nice thick layer of hypoallergenic adhesive to the skin. from the barrier film that you buy, and then the CGM is never going to make contact with the skin. The needle goes through the small hole in the middle, but the adhesive never actually touches the skin. And in most people, this is very effective. So this is kind of like the last step. If the first two steps didn't work for you, this is what you're going to wind up with trying last. And for most people, again, this will likely prevent the rash and the skin irritation that you can get from a CGM. I wanted to talk about a few other things that you want to make sure that you do with your CGM to make sure you avoid some of these rashes and this irritation. First one is you want to make sure you're not using any moisturizer, any oils, anything over the skin in the area you're going to use the CGM, because this can obviously cause an allergic reaction. It can cause some problems with the CGM. So just make sure that the area that you're going to put it on, no moisturizer, no products over that area. And you also want to make sure that the area that you're going to put it on is completely dry. A lot of people actually will take a blow dryer to make sure the skin is completely dry. You don't want any moisture. If you need a blow dryer to ensure that, that's definitely a good step. And then some people who sweat, pretty profusely actually have found some luck using an antiperspirant over the area that you're going to put the CGM on. Because if you sweat very profusely and you build up moisture underneath the CGM, not only will this make the CGM start to pull off, but that moisture can also lead to an allergic reaction underneath the CGM, just irritation in the skin and a rash as well. So you want to make sure you're using a hypoallergenic deodorant. You can apply that first. If you are somebody that sweats pretty profusely, this can be another thing to help prevent those rashes and that skin irritation. So those are a few different tips for you to try out to prevent a rash with your CGM. I will leave a link to the study if you wanted to check out that one I told you about before with the Flonase study. And if you have any tips that maybe you've tried with your CGM that have helped you prevent skin irritation, I would love to hear it. And thank you so much for watching the video.